Everyone. Hopefully you can all hear me. Thank you everyone for coming today for the More Than Good Enough Advancing Public Bike Parking Options webinar put on by Smart Commute Association. My name is Molly Mixa. I'm with Smart Commute London, and I'll be hosting the webinar today along with Jesse Hahn in the background from Point A. We will be recording this webinar, and you will be able to find it on the SmartCommute.ca website going forward. I'll just introduce a little bit about Smart Commute, then we'll have the webinar, and then we'll do a prize draw, and we'll try to save most of the Q&A for the end, and then have all the remaining time left to talk about bike parking. A little bit about Smart Commute, for those of you who don't know. Smart Commute is an Ontario-based initiative that addresses commuting challenges by delivering programs that expand access to sustainable transportation options, reward behavior change, and provide education. We provide different program services, including the Smart Commute app, which is at SmartCommute.ca, and you can find that on any app store. An emergency ride home program, Smart Commute campaigns, including the Bike Month campaign, which this webinar is a part of, a carpooling program, cycling program, commuter assessments, and more. And you can see some of the different, or all of the different municipalities and partners that are part of the Smart Commute Association there. I'm going to turn over to Jesse, who has some pre-webinar questions for you. See those? Starting with which city, town are you from? And feel free to use the chat during the presentation.
And while we're waiting, why don't we present our guest speaker?
Sounds good. Allison Miller, our speaker today, has been working with the City of London for over 20 years, and I have the privilege of working with her. Allison is a registered professional planner in Ontario. She tries to walk the talk, as her first vehicle purchase was a bicycle, and she has logged over 14,500 kilometers just walking to work. Take it away, Allison.
Thank you, Molly, and thank you, Jesse, as well. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I dive into this afternoon's topic, I thought to start, I'd invite you to take a moment to reflect on the traditional lands where you are located. So I am in the City of London, as is Molly. It's situated on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabeg, the Haudenosaunee, the Lenape-Wak, and the Attawandaron. We honor and respect the history, the languages, and the culture of the diverse Indigenous people who call this land home. The City of London is currently home to First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. As representatives of the people of the City of London, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work and to live in this territory. So let's dive into it. Have you ever ridden up on your bicycle to a destination and thought to yourself, this bike parking isn't ideal, but I guess it's good enough, so I'll lock up here? I'm going to talk about taking bike parking to the next level. I'm going to cover sort of three areas. The first is why bike parking is important for the City of London. I'll talk about our bike parking implementation plan and the steps that led to its development. And I'll give you some ideas for moving bike parking forward in your own communities. And obviously, I forgot to share my slides, so just a moment. There we go. So that was that. Whoops. One moment. Okay. So who am I and why am I speaking to you about this today? So as Molly mentioned, I work for the City of London. My job, and as well as Molly's actually, is to encourage Londoners to leave the car at home for more trips. And that includes using a bicycle for transportation. What we do is called transportation demand management. It's a fancy term. Essentially, it means that it's our role to help to reduce reliance on single occupancy vehicles, so driving alone, vehicle kilometers traveled, capital expenditures, maintenance costs, traffic congestion, and greenhouse gas emissions. On the flip side, it's about improving road safety, our air quality, our personal health, and opportunities to make social connections. Providing more and better bike parking is part of my role and Molly's. So bicycle parking is a critical component of a cycling network. So often we think, oh, bike lanes, bike pathways, but bike parking is equally important. Without it, people who want to bike more may be forced to leave their bicycle at home and to drive instead. They might be forced to bring their bicycle into the destination, which isn't always an option, obviously, or they might just decide not to make the trip at all. Cyclists may be relegated to locking their bicycle in an unintended location, making it more susceptible to theft. Well-designed and well-located bike parking helps increase cyclists' comfort to leave their bicycle. And ultimately, I think for all of us, we want to see an increase in the number of people who choose their bicycle for more trips. So in London, we're very much motivated from our Climate Emergency Action Plan, which aims to achieve net zero emissions by 2050, in part by reducing our reliance on our personal vehicles and expanding support for all of those other sustainable options. This image shows the estimated breakdown of greenhouse gas emissions by human activity. And that big black scary bar on the far right-hand side there, that's our contribution to greenhouse gases from our use of personal vehicles. So personal vehicles contribute the greatest share in London. And noting that your communities have quite similar sources of greenhouse gas emissions. The other motivation is we recently, our council approved our mobility master plan, or our transportation plan, you could call it. It includes targets to increase trips made by walking, cycling, and transit from 23% in 2019 to 32.5% in 2050. Now, I know you're sort of scratching your heads, as Molly and I have too, with that 0.5%. What does that mean exactly? Well, we're trying to figure that out, and we can thank a divided council for that. So really, we're looking to 2050, to 25 years into the future. Yes, that's important, but there are changes that we can make today. So bike parking is one element that supports making it easier to ride our bicycles now and into the future. So our bike parking implementation plan, it was approved by council last fall of 2025. It has a time frame of 5 years, and actually I'd say even beyond that, so looking to 2029 and beyond. The aim is to address the needs of cyclists for both short-term and long-term bike parking, and guiding how those solutions will be implemented and providing those solutions citywide. To develop our implementation plan, we very much were inspired by the Association of Pedestrian and Bicycle Professionals, or APBP, bike parking guidelines, and I'll come back to this in a moment. We also very much borrowed heavily, I think it's fair to say, from the City of Ottawa's 2021 public bike parking strategy. Many municipalities across North America have bicycle parking guidelines. We wanted to take it to the next step. So not only looking at kind of what the best designs of bike racks are and where they should be, or how they should be located, but also looking at locations for installation and timelines associated with those. As I mentioned, I'll say APBP, this webinar is perfect timing. They just released the 3rd edition of their bicycle parking guidelines document, and that's an image of it there. It's very much a North American gold standard. for bicycle parking, and it presents comprehensive recommendations primarily for practitioners. So folks in roles similar to what Molly and I do. Now there is a cost to access it, but I'm gonna come back to this in a moment and give you another option that's free. Better, it's free. So our implementation plan, our bike parking implementation plan, is not our first foray into bike parking documents, if you will. In 2023, we completed London's neighborhood bike parking guidelines, and it very much provides guidance on implementing short-term. So when I say short-term, I mean unsecured bike racks or bike posts in municipal rights-of-ways, very much tied to transit. And for this, we conducted a jurisdictional scan to find out what were other municipalities providing to tie into transit. We also completed a bike shed analysis for London of showing where we showed kind of the potential for first and last mile connections by bike, connecting to all of our transit stops. And that was very interesting. It showed us the potential for making more of those connections by bike to transit. And out of interest, because I had no idea before we started to dive into this, in London we have just almost 2,000 bus stops. So fast forward to 2025, we completed the London Secure Bike Parking Feasibility Study. In brackets there, administration options. So that was the focus of that study. And we got a Federation of Canadian Municipalities, or FCM, funding to support this work. The purpose was to explore how other municipalities are providing secure bike parking options to the public. For this, we conducted, again, a best practices review with municipalities, with transit authorities, with parking authorities, and with nonprofits across Canada and some from the US as well. We wanted to learn more about who was implementing the secure bike parking for the public, but then who was managing it and who was looking after the maintenance and those sorts of things for that kind of secure bike parking. One of the items that came out of the project was a cost analysis of various administration models. The approximate costs that we used or that were used to develop this were based on what we heard from those that we interviewed from across North America. We've already used this tool to estimate costs for 3 London examples or scenarios. The first being a downtown standalone bike facility with a capacity of 60 to 75 bikes. And this is very much tied to our transit. The second is an exterior fenced bike facility that we envision for community centers. So both for staff and for visitors to community centers. And those would have a capacity of 8 to 10 bikes. And then bike lockers. So 3 bike lockers with a capacity of 18 to 24 bikes available to the public, but obviously with security features. You'll notice that we can actually calculate the cost per bike and the annual operating and maintenance costs. So we arrived at some of these figures based again on those interviews that we conducted. Now, many of the folks that we interviewed either weren't sure what their operating or maintenance costs were, or they just were a bit reluctant to share those costs. So the way that we got around that was to then instead assign estimates of person days, so full-time equivalents to operating and maintenance costs, because obviously it takes people to look after these facilities. Now that feasibility study had a series of recommendations, and they were to provide a variety of secure bike parking options, so not just to look at one kind of model, to develop a robust operations and maintenance plan, to clarify city roles and responsibilities. So probably like in your communities, there are several of us at the City of London who have something to do with bike parking, whether it's providing it or analyzing it or fixing it. So to clarify some of those roles and make sure that everyone's working together. to explore a parking authority model. So this was something that we were curious about. We all know about motor vehicle parking authorities, whose jobs it is to provide car parking. So is there a model that you could implement for that where they specialize on bike parking? And then integrating or better integrating our secure bike parking with transit, and continuing to partner with nonprofits to provide valet bike parking or to provide other programs. Our next steps in terms of bike parking and secure bike parking are to pilot some of those models that I just went over, to update our policies for relationships between the public and private property. So obviously we have control over public property, but what about at malls or at hospitals or things like that? So trying to look at what are some of those partnerships that we can develop further. And then engaging with Londoners and our cycling community to find out what is working for them, where do they need bike parking, getting all of their input, and then monitoring uptake of our bike parking. So as you know, this webinar is brought to you by the Smart Commute Association. In London, with our program, we recently added the benefit of providing one free bike rack to our member employers. And we also have a financial incentive for those employers that they can tap into to increase the security of their employee bike parking. For smaller businesses who might not necessarily be part of the Smart Commute London program, we actually offer the Business Bike Rack program. And so that's where we can provide smaller businesses with a one bike rack at cost, with additional support in terms of determining what their bike parking needs are and where to locate it on their property. So this isn't necessarily secure bike parking, but it is a well-designed bike rack, and it can help to highlight the need for providing more security features in the future. So in addition to bike parking, we do have some complementary supports or features that the City of London provides. Across the city, we have 8 bike repair stations, and we actually use 2 different models in London currently. The picture on the left there, that's the green spoke model, if you're interested. And the picture on the right in that poster, that's the Darrow model. So we have sort of about half and half of each. We've also worked with Fanshawe College's GIS and urban planning program students. In 2024, they helped us to develop this downtown bicycle parking locations map. So this is London's downtown, and it shows the different varieties of bike parking and where they're located. This year, we're actually working with them again to update the map and add a neighborhood that's adjacent to our downtown. We're also working with the Cycling Guide Foundation to bring their app to London. So that app presents best available low-stress cycling-friendly routes, and we're hoping to integrate the bike parking work that we've done into that app so that it's more of a seamless one-stop shop. So you're likely joining us today wondering, well, what can I do to increase and to improve bike parking? Maybe you're an employer, maybe you're an employee, maybe you're a resident who uses your bicycle for all of those other important trips. And I'm hoping that I can inspire you just with some pictures, some examples of other secure bike parking. I'll start with the City of London as a corporation and for our staff. So our City Hall has a bike lockup in our underground parking garage. That's the image on the bottom right. It's not the friendliest environment, one could say, but it's certainly secure and it's well used. We also have 2 additional outdoor secure bike parking facilities at 2 other work sites, and that one of them is the picture on the bottom left, despite there not being a bicycle in the facility. And all 3 of them use a keypad, so a number kind of combination to open it, which means that Molly and I have to administer who can access it, who, you know, does everyone have the latest code when we update it. So there is some administration side to that. So we're actually hoping to at least upgrade the City Hall facility to so that you can just tap your employee fob. All employees have a fob to get into the various work sites so that it's more seamless for the employee. We're also looking to make some more cosmetic changes to it to make it more inviting. The other example there, the picture in the middle at the top, we also have hanging indoor bike racks. This is in one of the rented work sites, and this is available to those staff to book in advance so that they can actually bring their bike right into the office and hang it, and it's all set to go at the end of the day. We do provide secure bike lockers in our downtown. This came about from the public saying that, you know, they needed secure bike parking in our downtown. We launched in late summer of 2021, so during the pandemic. Our lockers have both monthly or hourly accessed. And to arrive at the rates for them, London cyclists are not used to paying for bicycle parking. So we actually mirrored the downtown vehicle parking rates. So drivers get 2 hours free. We can talk about that another time, but they get 2 hours free and then they pay for their parking. So we mirrored that with 2 hours free to use the lockers, and then it's 50 cents an hour after that, up to a maximum of 24 hours. To be frank, our experience and our challenges with the bike lockers, with the administration, with the promotion, with ongoing maintenance, really led us to want to see what other municipalities were providing for publicly accessed secure bike parking. So we have the lockers in 3 different locations throughout our downtown. They're all in kind of slightly different environments, actually. There is capacity for a total of 18 traditional sized bicycles. And each location has 2 monthly keyed lockers. So you rent it for the month, and 4 hourly app accessed lockers. So we've got some good learnings from that. A couple of other examples just from London. The picture on the left is from our downtown convention center. So this is in their underground parking garage. Now, you could argue that this isn't secure bike parking, but they've certainly tried to kind of elevate the area and make it obvious for their employees and for visitors to the convention center that they can park here. Western University, the picture on the right, they actually have 2 lockup facilities. They also have bike lockers, but they're 2 lockup facilities. One is a room in a building, and I think it has a capacity for about 30 bikes. This is an outdoor facility that has a capacity for 60 bikes, and it's available to staff, to faculty, and to students. And they're hanging racks on the inside. So you have to be able to lift your bicycle. These next pictures are primarily from bike rack manufacturers with a couple of real-world examples. So you might recognize some of them. Many of the companies have their own design guides, and actually they are really worth checking out if you're more interested in bike parking. So these pictures show bike rooms. Stacked racks, so the 2 layers of bike parking, can be very space efficient for traditional bikes. It is important, though, that they have pneumatic lift assist to make it easier to access that layer of racks on the top. Here's another picture of a bike room. So along the walls, you've got the hanging rack capacity, and down the center, you've got inverted U's or staple racks, and those are great for bicycles that might be larger or heavier or just not your traditional size, that they can be locked up there. Here's an example of, again, a storage room with a very inviting, simple artwork on the way in. And it looks like, you know, a spot to kind of rest or take a moment to adjust your panniers or whatever on the right-hand side. Here are some examples of just small outdoor, potentially lock-up facilities. The picture on the bottom being the Whitby GO station, and I know that it's not the only one with secure bike parking. Just some smaller examples. And again, these ones can be of varying sizes. I'm trying to also show you that, you know, they can be in different environments as well. And this one I like, kind of repurposing a sea can for secure bike parking. So, you know, sea cans, cheap-ish, and you can use it for bike parking. And then here's just a smaller example. This might be an excellent example for low or medium density residential circumstances where you might not be able to or don't want to bring your bicycle up to your unit. And this can be available to residents. And then some more maybe creative ideas. And noting that the facility, depending on the size, you could have kind of a portion of it that's locked, that's accessible to maybe its staff, and then the other side is not locked and is meant for short-term bike parking. Maybe that's for customers or for visitors. And then just a couple of more examples. And again, showing that, you know, you can have some outdoor bike parking and then some under shelter that's more secure. The picture on the bottom makes me think of greenhouses. So if you want to grow your tomatoes in there as well, you're all set, I suppose. The other thing that we provide at the City of London, and maybe you have access to in your communities as well, valet bike parking. So think of like when you go to an event and there's a coat check, it's the same kind of concept. So you would ride up to an attendant and hand over your bicycle. They give you a ticket, half of a ticket that it's numbered, and it's the same number as the other half of the ticket that gets tied to your bike. And that attendant then rolls your bike over to the parking and parks it. In this case, these are just pictures of some larger events that we've had at the City of London. We purchased this larger racking system many years ago. And so it's moved by our parks operations colleagues when they're taking other things like waste receptacles or picnic tables, then they can also deliver the racking system. And it also comes with barricades to help to delineate the area. The picture on the far right shows them, and we're just using the readily available construction barricades, nothing fancy. We have talked about using other materials, and we might look at that in the future, but for now, those barricades do a very good job of delineating the area. We work with local NGOs and interested organizations to run the service. We always make sure that there's a minimum of 2 attendants per shift, meaning that they can check cyclists' bikes in and they can also keep an eye on the bikes that are already parked. We also last year purchased a racking system for smaller events. So these are more portable. Event organizers book them through our special events process. And both the large and the smaller bike valet systems every time you use it, it comes with a box that includes instructions, it includes the tickets, it includes a sign-in sheet for the cyclists, it includes signage for around the area, just so that they have everything to run the service. And then what can you do in your own community? Well, first and foremost, I'd say if you're lucky enough to have one, get involved in your local cycling group. The other idea is to share your cycling to work experience with your employer. So they might not know that you need more security. They might not realize that your bicycle is your vehicle to get to and from work. Maybe you have or you need showers or lockers. Talk to other cycling colleagues, form a bicycle user group so that you can amplify your voice in terms of what you need. In everyday life, tell shop owners you need well-designed and convenient bike parking and not, a post that's behind the dumpster where no one can see it. You can share APBP's Essentials of Bike Parking Guidelines. So this is it's a much shorter version of their full guidelines, and it is free to download on their website. So again, that's the Association of Pedestrian and Bicycle Professionals. You can work with local event organizers to provide valet bike parking. And don't forget to share your needs with municipal staff like myself and Molly, and share your needs with counselors as well and with your decision makers, because they might not realize that there is a need for this and that it is an important aspect of riding a bike. So that's it for me. Please do, there's my contact information. Please do feel free to reach out anytime. I do love to talk about anything bike parking. Thank you very much for having me, and happy Bike Month to everyone. I'm going to stop sharing now.
Thank you so much, Allison. That was terrific. I know that we have some questions already in the chat. As I said, we're going to go through some of our little administration things now, and then we'll head back to the Q&A after we're done. So we have as much time as possible for that and don't miss anything else. I think there are some post-webinar questions going up in the chat. So look for those. There we go. And just let us know. We have a love of gift card prizes at Smart Commute. So we're going to do a prize draw for all the webinar attendees at the end. Also for Bike Month, we have a campaign incentive going for people who are using the Smart Commute app. Every time you log a bike trip, or when you register for the first time with the app, you get a ballot to go into a draw in your municipality for a $100 gift card. So you have until July the 7th to register all of your bike trips and to register for the app, but it's for all of the trips that you take in the month of June. So strongly encourage that. You can also use fitness apps along with
Molly,
this. Yeah,
could
sorry,
you
Jesse.
share your screen?
Oh, it's not. Sorry.
No worries.
Okay. No. There we go. That's about the gift cards. Sorry about that. Yeah, so do register for the Smart Commute app and log your trips there. Again, you can connect your fitness apps, so Strava, Garmin, etc., to the Smart Commute app. If you own an Apple or Samsung watch that is connected to any of these apps, it should also upload cycling trips to our app. So try that out. Next up, our final webinar in the series is Ontario Bike Tourism, which will be on Thursday, June 25th. So if you haven't already registered, join us for that. And I'm going to turn it back over to Jesse now for the gift card draw. This is for everyone who was present in the first 20 minutes of the webinar today.
Okay, so this is the fun part. So I'm going to pick one person out of this whole wheel of people that showed up today. So thank you all so much for coming. Let's get to it. And we got Jen N. So congrats, Jen, for winning that. I'll email you after this webinar for you to win your $50 either Presto or MEC gift card. So congrats to that.
Okay. We had some questions off the top for Allison. Is the operating and maintenance, going back to the cost chart about the operating and maintenance cost, is the operating and maintenance cost on an annual basis or for the lifespan?
And the answer is annual basis. And by the way, maybe I didn't say this, but I'll say it now. If you're interested in any of the documents that we've worked on, by all means, feel free to reach out to myself or Molly, and we're happy to share those.
And then does your evaluation of the costs, this is from Jason, and required subsidies and investments associated with cycling infrastructure compared to the full externalized costs associated with the conveniences, infrastructure, and policies, decisions that are afforded to those that opt to drive a single occupant motor vehicle? Did you get that?
I think I got that. Yes, great question. I think I follow. And the short answer is no. We don't take those external costs into consideration. However, interesting, because we're actually currently working right now on putting together. It'll be a report or an infographic or something on those external costs of driving and what they actually mean compared to riding a bicycle or carpooling or taking transit in London. And we're actually working with Western University and their geography department on that work. So we're hoping that that will be complete likely by the end of summer. And if you're interested in sort of those externality costs, the city of Vancouver and the city of Montreal have actually done some work in those areas in the past.
Great. A question about bike valets. What's the name of the bike holding rack used for the bike valet? And this came up, I think, when we were talking about the small system, but you could note either or both.
Yeah, and so the small system, the manufacturer, I think that's what's being asked, is the company's called Moved by Bikes, and they're I want to say they're out of the San Francisco, I could be wrong, but they're out of California. And then the large racking system, which we purchased years and years ago, that's actually the manufacturer is a company called Cycle Safe, and they're based in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So if you're joining us from Ontario, you might want to look into other options that are closer to home.
Thank you. Is there value in boulevard bike parking in strictly suburban environments, apart from bus stops, is the question.
Yeah, a great question, and I don't know that I have the answer, but we've had some requests for bike posts in more residential areas, and we just look at what is around here. If it's just houses, which it often is it that someone's trying to connect to transit from there, so they need somewhere to leave their bike? Maybe they're going to visit someone who lives in that area. So there's no like yes or no answer to this. It really depends on the environment, and it's always okay, I think, to ask the person who's requesting this, why do you need the bike parking?
If I can just add to that, one thing
Yeah.
that is in suburban areas is schools, and we find a great need for bike parking at schools, which is a tricky one because it's on school property, so the school and the school board has to be involved. But that's certainly an area that in many places could use improvement and is of great benefit to the students and staff at schools. Could you speak more about the hourly charges for bike parking? Do users have an app for booking, locking, unlocking, and payment?
Yeah, so that's currently that's tied specifically to our bike lockers. So for those lockers that you can rent, we say by the hour, but you could rent it for 2 minutes if you need to. They are so those bike lockers were purchased from a company, again, I mentioned it earlier, but called Cycle Safe. So they manufacture the bike lockers. To note that there are other manufacturers of bike lockers. And these app accessed. So CycleSafe works with a company, and in this case, the company is called Movatic, Movatic. So they provide the app. So the cyclist bikes up to the locker and uses the app to unlock the door of their locker, puts their bike in, shuts the door, and off they go. And when they come back, it's the reverse. Now, the cyclist does have to put in their credit card details or their bank card details in case that they are charged for the rental. In our case, it's actually, maybe this is too much detail, but the Movatic system takes a $25 hold. And so you won't likely go through that $25, but they'll reimburse you for what you didn't use. And often our cyclists get a little bit confused because they're, in this day and age, you can see your bank statement kind of by the minute, and they'll see, oh, they've been charged $25, but in fact, no, it was a hold. In terms of those, the rates that we're charging, as I said, cyclists are not used to paying for bike parking, even though this is a service and it's a much better opportunity for them than locking up to a rack beside a road. And so the first 2 hours are free, and then we charge 50 cents an hour after that.
Awesome. Question, do you have data on the usage of your citywide bike parking or London staff bike parking?
The short answer is, so no, not so much for across the city. And that is one of the areas that's come out of the implementation plan that we are going to be focusing some attention on to figure out how do we capture that. And then on the staff side of things, we do have some data, and that's Allison walking by the lockup and saying, "Oh, there are 5 bikes," and then taking note of that. So we sort of know kind of seasonally how many there are. We also know that over the years, more and more colleagues are using the lockups.
And for the lockers, of course, the benefit of an app is that it's always tracking usage. So we would have that. A question from Kevin, any Canadian manufacturers? And I don't know what's specific, if that's for what type of lockers or bike parking you're talking about. But anyway, Canadian manufacturers.
Yeah. And keep in mind, I work for a municipality, so I don't want to seem like I'm favoring one or over the other. You should do a Google search. The one that comes to mind is a Vélo Transit out of Quebec. So theirs are manufactured in Canada. I believe that there are others.
And of course, our local standard for posts is the TMO bike post, as other places may have a ring and post, which were designed and are manufactured right here in London. A longer one from Joel. Hello, thank you for the insightful webinar today. I'm a member of the Bike Parking Alliance of Toronto, BPAT, where we are advocating for much needed secure bike parking in the City of Toronto, particularly at apartment buildings and suburban plazas. As we are still building momentum, I was wondering if you have any advice, resources, or lessons learned that could help us with getting started. In particular, we would appreciate any tips on engaging private businesses, property owners, and landlords and encouraging them to support secure bike parking initiatives.
That's a great question. Feel free to follow up with myself, pardon me, or Molly afterwards. We've learned some things over the years, but I think it's just the tricky part is finding the right person to chat with. And you know, it's easy to make your case for easier, I should say, to make your case for what you need.
And then curious if anyone tracks bike theft across the GTA. Could be a good way to prioritize specialized parking.
I don't know about bike thefts across the GTA. I do know that there are some kind of more social media based groups that do track bike thefts in various communities.
I
But
would
yeah,
highlight.
that's a great point because it shows where you might need more security for your bike parking.
Mhm. We have in London through the London Police Service 529 Garage, which is a bicycle registry that is all over at least different places in North America, and there's a general registry too. So that would be one way you can register your own bike, and they would have some tracking, but it's not overall. I think that is all the questions in the chat. If anyone else has any, throw them in there now. Otherwise, yeah, look for this presentation on the Smart Commute website. And thanks again, everybody, for coming, and happy Bike Month.